Hey guys, you're welcome back to my channel. So this is Learn French with Queen. If you're a French lover and you're looking for a platform where you can learn French together as a community, I say a big welcome. So this is a platform for learning French for French lovers. On today's video, we'll be looking at tips on reading. Okay, so we'll be looking at some of those tips that can help us, those things that we can put in mind while we are learning how to read in French language. Our first tips for today says read with a dictionary. Okay, so while you are trying to read in French language, always have a dictionary beside it because it's quite useful, okay, for learning how to read. Because it might get to a time whereby you come across a word that you don't even know the meaning or you don't even know how to pronounce it, so you can do well to check up your dictionary, look at the meaning and look at the transcription. So that gives you a better form of pronunciation. When you can look up the dictionary, you can look through the transcription rather, and you'll be able to pronounce better. And if fortunately your dictionary has an audio, you could as well play the audio to listen to give you a better sound if you feel or you're not sure of the sounds by yourself. So you could turn on the audio form of it and listen to it and repeat after it. So that is a good way of improving on one's reading skills. Okay, so now let's look at the next one. We have invest your time reading books. We have storybooks, magazines, articles, newspaper, novels. Okay, so basically when we want to learn how to read in French language, we should invest our times to reading. Okay, so you cannot say you want to read and it's only when you have classes or tutoring or the rest. Take time by yourself, invest your time into reading. You could take anything, it could be a magazine that you love reading. Take something that you love reading, actually something that is cool with you. If it's a novel, if it's a storybook, you can take a storybook, okay, with images. If there are storybooks with images that you love, something that's quite catchy. So there are a lot of them like that. So you could pick up storybooks, novels, magazines, articles, okay, depending on your choice, your style, what you love to read most. So read through them and don't rush it. Just take it little by little. Even if it's just a page in a day, it's something, but make sure that you are consistent about it. You are doing it regularly. Okay, so the next one says do not read boring or voluminous book. Okay, voluminous book. Do not read a boring or voluminous book. So you can't imagine that as a beginner you want to start reading, you now went to take a book so voluminous as this and you want to go through it. That alone is enough to scare you off, that wow, when am I going to finish reading this? Okay, so you can take something very simple, not too voluminous, something of a portable size, something portable. Okay, you can take something, and don't take a book that is boring. When it's boring, it doesn't even stir up your spirit to read. You might just feel naturally that the language itself is boring. So it's not just the language that is boring, it is the choice of book that you chose that is boring. There are some books that you just need to take time to read them. For example, in the Anglophone country, if you hear names like Shakespeare, you know that someone that wants to take a Shakespeare's book to read must be ready, because you before you can understand Shakespeare's book, you have to read it over and over and over and over again before you can understand, because there are some old English that he uses. So it's something like that I'm referring to. So whenever you want to take any French book, don't look for a voluminous book or a boring book or books with big grammar, French grammars that you will have to be cracking your brain, or something that you do not understand the old form of French. No, you don't take that. You take something safe, something like that. When you read it, you can easily guess the meaning or flow along if you're a beginner. And if you're an intermediate, something that you should pick, that while you are reading, you know that, oh, I can flow along with this book. Okay, so that these are some of the tips that one should put in mind while you are reading, so that it will aid the reading skills. So it will make it interesting while reading. It will make it look as if the language itself is boring. Meanwhile, it might just be the choice of what you're doing that is making it look as if, oh, it's so tedious to learn or to know how to read in French language. No, not at all. It's not voluminous, it's not tedious, it's not boring. It's quite interesting. Okay, so I have another one here which says, don't be mad at yourself for pronouncing wrongly. Okay, so because there are some times that some people will actually pronounce something, and because they keep pronouncing wrongly, they feel, oh no, I'm so mad at myself. Like, person will be so mad at his or herself that, like, why am I making this mistake? It's like, I don't want to ever learn this language or something like that. Don't feel bad about the fact that you're making a mistake. That is why you are learning the language. You should make mistakes so that you can learn from your mistakes and work towards it. So while you are making mistakes, actually the fact is you're getting to know some of your weaknesses. Okay, you get to know that, okay, this is where I have issues with. Okay, I think I should work more on this aspect, and so this is going to help you to improve better. So when you know the aspect at which you are lacking, you'll be able to concentrate better. Okay, so never be mad at yourself when you do something wrongly. Rather, look through it and see, okay, why am I doing this wrongly? Okay, so when you look through why you are doing that particular thing wrongly, it will be a guide to, oh, let me work better on this aspect. And obviously, if you can pinpoint whatever the issue is, it's quite easy to be able to find a solution to the problem. Okay, so now let's move on. I have some here that learn to read slowly. Wow, some people believe that yeah, some people believe that when they want to speak, okay, so that people will not be able to detect their mistake, they should just say it fast, and then even though they are saying something that is wrong, they just want to say it as fast as possible, because they feel that, and when you say it as fast as possible, it makes it look like as if, okay, you are copying the white while they are reading, and then you are even correcting them that, oh, you didn't pronounce this word correctly, go back, really, this is how to pronounce this word. They won't even return back to that pronunciation. They will just have to keep reading. J'aime mon école, ou bien j'aime mon pays est beau, mon pays est ceci, mon pays est cela. Oh, je suis allée au village et j'avais une grande femme et je suis allée au marché, je suis allée au restaurant, ou bien, they just try to read whatever they see in such a way that it's so fast. You want to read fast because you feel you should help yourself with an accent. Quite alright, it is good to help yourself with an accent, but when you are just starting, you take it slowly. It's when you get used to it that naturally you will be fast at it. Okay, so don't always put it as a priority to take everything at a rush. No, take it gradually. Read gradually. Okay, so the lesson says, learn to break your words into syllables for better pronunciation. So while you are reading gradually, you'll be able to pronounce those words. You'll be able to dictate the fact that this is what I have read. So the good aspect of learning theoretically is that you learn. The practical aspect is the fact that now you've learned something. That thing that you have learned is what you should put into action. Okay, so when you have learned, okay, you've learned the alphabet in French language, you've learned the vowels, you've learned the sounds, you've learned the accents, the French accent, you've learned maybe the diphthongs, you've learned so many sounds. So it is time to put them into practice. Be able to detect by yourself that, okay, truly this is the sounds that this gives me while I'm reading this word. Okay, these are the rules and regulations in French language. Oh, when I see an S in between two vowels, I know that it gives me the sound Z. Okay, when I have AN as another vowel, the pronunciation gives me okay, so those kind of things, that is when you get to internalize everything that you have. You take your time to read slowly, break these words down into syllables if they seem to be long, like something lengthy that you can't pronounce at once. break them down into syllables, pronounce them bit by bit, then join them together and then pronounce it. So that makes a better way. Something that you do regularly. The fact is, when you do it regularly, they say learning makes perfect. When you do it regularly, you yourself, you realize that there is an improvement in what you do, because you just get used to it naturally, because you have been doing it over the time. So something that looks so lengthy to you at first will no longer look lengthy to you. It will look so simple that you'll be able to pronounce it, because you are used to pronouncing it regularly, because you've invested your time over the times to read your books, or invest to read books, whether novels, whether textbooks, whether magazines and the rest. And so you have been helping yourself maybe with a dictionary to help you with the pronunciation when you forget those sounds. Okay, so you are taking books that are amazing, that are interesting, that keeps steering your interest, your passion for reading, for improving more in your reading skills. So all these things, while you do it over the time, you get used to it and it doesn't become a problem again. Okay, so we have another one here, which is learn the French accent and put them into practice. It's quite important, okay, for us to be able to have that accent that we want in French language. So we have some French accents. I looked at them in my previous videos, so if you think you want to learn more on the French accent, you can check out my previous videos on French accent. So basically we have some French accents, that should be like 5 of them. We have accent aigu, accent grave, accent circonflexe, we have la cédille et le tréma. Okay, so basically those are the accents that we have in French language. Once you can detect the sound that each accent gives, when you see them on any French words, you will be able to pronounce her appropriately, because French is an accented language. So if you do not understand the sounds that each accent gives, then that is a problem on its own entirely. So you might necessarily not find it interesting while you are reading. It might be tedious for you because you don't know what sounds when you see an accent graph. When you see an accent graph or an accent aigu, when you don't know the sounds that it gives, definitely your reading wouldn't be. Your reading wouldn't better. Let me use that word. Your reading wouldn't be better, because the fact is you don't know the sound that it gives. So when you know that, okay, this one, when it moves to the front, it gives me a sound. When it's going to the back, it gives me an a sound. So when you see a word like fair, you know that, oh, why it's going to the back, it gives me an a sound. So I know that this is fair from my alphabet: e, p, then e, then r, and e. And you know that this is where your pronunciation stops. So you know that it is hair. Okay, so that's that. On that ability to be able to make use of your French accent, it's quite important. Okay, so another tip on reading is liaison. Ability to make do of liaison. Liaison actually helps in such a way that, you know, liaison, as the name implies, means it's joining 2 words together to make it as if you are pronouncing just a particular word. And so this is one of the beauty of French language, ability to make liaisons together, and so you pronounce it together, makes it look beautiful. It looks as if you are saying one particular word, but you've merged 2 words together. So these are rules that you should put in place. There are some words that when you see them, you should be able to make liaisons with them, pronounce them together instead of pronouncing them separately. Okay, so for example, we have de temps en temps. Okay, so the liaison came this way, de temps en temps. So we have it to be en temps, de temps en temps. Instead of saying de temps en temps, you have it to be de temps en temps. Okay, so we have something like mon anniversaire. Instead of saying mon anniversaire, so we have the liaison this way to be mon anniversaire. So it becomes this way, mon anniversaire. Okay, so we have another one like mes amis. Instead of saying mes amis, it gives us mes amis. So we have something like this, mes amis. Okay, mes amis. We have another one. We have something like nous sommes bien amusés. Instead of saying amusé, we just say n'amusé. So it gives something like this, n'amusé. Nous sommes bien amusés. Okay, so we have peut-on peut-on aller au parc? Peut-on aller au parc? So instead of saying peut-on aller au parc, you pronounce it together. Instead of saying peut-on aller au parc, it's you can make a liaison there. There's a way you can read it together to give us peut-on aller au parc? Peut-on aller au parc? Okay? So the liaison is this way. And so it looks as if the peut-on is together. Peut-on aller au parc? Oh, we be able to go to the park. Okay, so now we have grand thumb. Okay, so you'll be wondering, why is it grand thumb? Okay, so when we have D at the end of the word and the next word that is following is a silent H, the D gives the sound T. Okay, it gives the sound T because this H is actually silent. We're not hearing it. The pronunciation, where we are starting the pronunciation from, is from this O. That's what we are hearing. So when you want to join it together, instead of saying grand thumb, no, it changes. The sound gives a T sound, so it gives something like grand thumb. Okay, cet homme est un héros. Cet homme est un héros. So that's the beauty. Instead of saying cet homme est un héros, so you pronounce them together. There's a liaison there, so we can make a liaison this way to be cet homme est un héros. Cet homme est un héros. Okay, so that's some of those things we should put into mind while we are learning how to read in French language. So we have another one here, which is do not pronounce the last letter in a French word. Okay, do not pronounce a last letter in a French word. So the last letter could be a consonant, could be a vowel. Basically, in French language, the last letters are not pronounced, but there are some exceptions to the rules. There are some words that you pronounce everything, but those ones that you pronounce everything are not up to the percentage of those ones that you don't pronounce them. So mostly in French language, you don't pronounce the last letters. Okay, and so looking at that, there are some words that are just silent, that les lettres muettes. So when you have them at the end of the word ending with P, D, T, S, X, and Z. Okay, so in words like du sirop, you say syrup, you say sirop, du sirop. So your pronunciation stops here. You are not pronouncing the T. So we have something like un ni. So you are not. The D is not being pronounced. It is this pronunciation is stopping here. We have un ni. We have un li. So this is not being pronounced. The pronunciation is stopping here. Okay, we have another one which is une souris. So the S is not being pronounced. The pronunciation is stopping here. We have une tout. Okay, the X is not being pronounced. The pronunciation stops here. We have un nez. Okay, so nez. Okay, so we have un nez as well. So the Z seems silent. Okay, so we have another examples of words that can be silent, especially when we have them in plural form as well. We have S and X. So we have like de café. So the café with the S is not being pronounced, but we just stop the pronunciation at the café. Okay, we have it to be le couteau. So when we have our plural form to either be S or X or X, so you don't pronounce the plural form of it. So the pronunciation stops at the last word before the plural form. We have another one that whenever you see any word that ends with E à la fin, so at the end of it, you don't pronounce it. For example, we have la plage. Okay, so for la plage, we are not pronouncing the O à la fin, we are stopping at the J. Okay, we have le téléphone. Phone. We are stopping the pronunciation at the N. Phone. Okay, so we don't pronounce the E à la fin. Okay, so and the last for today's video is going to be do not pronounce the ending of French conjugated verb, especially those ones that ends with ENT. Okay, so it's specific. Most times they are verbs with the ER verbs. Okay, they are the first group of verbs. So we don't pronounce those words. For example, il parle. We don't pronounce the ENT, we stop at the parle. Okay, elle chante. So we don't pronounce the ENT. And the last for today is reading apps. So you could as well go online, look for some reading apps which could be useful for you to help you learn, okay, help you in the reading process. These all together are the tips one should put into consideration while we want to learn how to read. These tips are going to help us in our reading process. I hope you're going to find some of these tips useful in your reading journey, in your reading process. So if you find this video useful, do give it a thumbs up, share to loved one, and don't forget to subscribe. Okay, see you in my next one. Till then, à plus.